Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In case you haven't noticed, it is a season in North America where it is cold and everyone is drinking hot chocolate. So I decided to also make hot chocolate. However, I feel like I have too much free time on my hands. So I decided to channel my inner Nara Smith and make the Flanders hot chocolate from scratch. That means I'm going to be making the hot chocolate from scratch. I'm going to be making the marshmallows from scratch, whipped cream from scratch, and then of course the wafer cookie from scratch. However, you might be saying, Summer, are you going to be making your sugar from scratch, your milk from scratch, your cream from scratch? I just want you to know that I actually considered that possibility. However, when I looked up how much it would cost for me to do all those activities, it was literally cheaper for me to just buy the ingredients from the grocery store. So let's just pretend that I was a farmer for like 2 seconds and made everything from scratch. Anyways, this is the game plan that we're going to be using. So let's get right into it. Bonjour, welcome to Paris. I'm kidding, but we're gonna start making the hot chocolate. I'm using Golden Brown Coffee's recipe from TikTok, and he started off by using half milk, half heavy cream, which is basically half and half, so I think you can substitute that. But I double fisted it, poured it in my pan, mixed that together. Then you're supposed to add 2 teaspoons of sugar, so I did. And then he added espresso. I don't drink coffee like that, so I only had instant coffee powder. So I just added enough of that. And then he also said that you're supposed to let the milk cook until you start seeing little bubbles. I got a gigantic milk bubble pimple. It was very disgusting, but I popped it and then I just kept letting it cook until I saw more bubbles, and then I added the chocolate in. This is 72% cacao, which is what he recommended. But then I realized I actually didn't want to use all of my good chocolate here, so I ended up pouring some chocolate chips in there. They're dark chocolate chips, so I think it's completely fine. And then I just kept mixing it all together until it started getting more and more combined. I was supposed to use a whisk. All my whisks were dirty and I didn't want to wash it, so I used my little spatula and it was working. However, my milk was looking a little lighter than his, so I just let it cook a little more, and as you can see, it got super thick, but I think I'm still on the right path, so I just kept cooking it until I thought it was done. And here's what it looks like. I know people usually pour theirs into the mug, but listen, I'm really clumsy. This pan is really big and this cup is really small. So long story short, I just had no confidence in not spilling it everywhere. So yeah, I used a spoon, and then when I tasted it,
so I am confusion.
I have to give it a 5 out of 10. It tastes just like melted dark chocolate. It is entirely too rich to be drinking. You're actually not even supposed to be drinking this. Like, if you go to Paris, people dip their pastries in this instead of drinking it. So yeah, 5 out of 10, but the hot chocolate is done and we're moving on to the next step. First off, shout out to Queen Lizzie, may she rest in peace, but we're going to be making the British staple, which is wafer biscuits. These ones are going to have chocolate inside. We're going to start by making the icing first because it needs to chill down because of the butter, but basically you add a ton of powdered sugar, you add a ton of cocoa powder, you add some softened butter, and then you're going to add some milk, and you just want that to combine until it is a semi-coherent form of icing. I just like mixed it together with a spatula and a whisk and kept on adding milk until it reached a consistency that I liked, which was kind of thick. It would hold its shape but not too thick that it wouldn't come out of the piping bag. Once that was combined, I just threw it in the fridge and called it a day. That was done. Next up is making the actual biscuit. It started off with some melted butter, then I added water and of course some vanilla, then sifting in the flour, the powdered sugar, some baking powder I think, as well as some cornstarch. I just kind of mixed that all together and made sure it was well combined until I got this nice smooth liquidy, I don't even want to call it, a batter basically. Of course you have to do the lick test, especially since there's no egg and it tasted delicious. And then my troubles begin. Dun dun dun. I have never used a waffle cone maker before, but I assumed it was just like a waffle iron, so I put my batter in there, and the first time around it overflowed. The second time around, which is what you see here, it was so soft and I couldn't figure out why it was coming out so soft. I did eat the batter though, but then I realized that I had the reading of the temperature wrong, so I put it in. This is the third time that I'm making it, and I got this nice little circle. It was still on the softer side, so when I scooped it, it broke, but of course you taste test, it tasted really good. So I tried one more time and I finally got a piece that came out at a decent size, and it was like decently hard and crunchy too. I quickly cut that into a nice rectangular shape that I was going to use to model all the other wafers by this one, and then I laid them all in a sheet, put it in the oven to bake, I think at 300 for 10 minutes until they got nice and crispy. I'm not going to lie to you, this batch that you see here is not the final batch. I just remade it later. And then finally it's time to assemble. You're going to pipe the chocolate icing into the wafer and just keep doing that until you have as many layers as you wanted. I wanted 4, and I think I did one with 5 as well, but 4 was the optimal solution. I cleaned it up, put it in the fridge until it got hard. Here's what it looks like. Listen to the crunch.
Oh, delicious.
It was very delicioso, so I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Would absolutely make and eat again. Then I got this brilliant idea to color match with the Ned Flanders one by putting it in some Biscoff cookie butter. So I did roll it around in there. I saw that it was working and coating nicely, so I put it on a wire rack and then poured the rest of the cookie butter right over it and let that harden in the fridge for I think like 10 to 15 minutes before assembling my hot chocolate. Now it's time to make the marshmallows, which is the hardest, easiest recipe ever. It's literally 5 ingredients: water, sugar, corn syrup, some vanilla extract, as well as some gelatin. But I had to do it 2 different times because it did not work out the first time. You're supposed to heat up your water, sugar, and corn syrup on the stove until it comes to 245 temp. I didn't have a real candy thermometer, so I had to use my meat one and just keep eyeballing it. Once that's come up to temp, you're supposed to use the gelatin that you've bloomed either in hot water or cold water. I'm not really sure which. I used room temperature water because I had gelatin sheets, and you're supposed to whip that together until it becomes this nice fluffy texture that is the marshmallows we know and love. Unfortunately, I didn't know how to use the gelatin sheets because the recipe I used gelatin powder. So when I whipped it, you can see it just turned into like this hardened rock around the gelatin, which was super disappointing. And I kind of wanted to give up, and I was like, no, there's still some liquid. So I did whip up the liquid and it did turn into this marshmallow like texture. So I figured I just had to make the gelatin softer or melt it. So that's what I did. I put the gelatin in the oven to melt, and then I redid my sugar syrup and then poured it in slowly before whipping it. And I got something that was close to a marshmallow. I think there was something wrong probably with my candy syrup, the cornstarch, sugar, and water, because I just eyeballed it the second time around, but it looked enough like a marshmallow for me to just put it in a container that was dusted with powdered sugar and let it set for the 6 hours. After 6 hours, it was looking pretty good. Like, it was looking kind of like a block of marshmallow. It looked like all the pictures that I saw online. I was pretty excited. I took my little cookie cutter. I sprayed it with some oil. I didn't know the oil was going to be yellow, but I sprayed it with some oil, and then I cut out the circle. And as always, first bite is for you, bestie. I ate the marshmallow. It was pretty yummy. I'm not gonna lie. It was actually pretty yummy, and it definitely tastes better than the store-bought marshmallows. I don't even know what that is at the store, but it tasted good. The texture was chewy, and I actually really enjoyed it. So I cut out the rest of the shapes, and now we're so close to assembly. So close. Last but not least is the whipped cream. It's literally the easiest thing to make. You just need some heavy cream and some sugar, and you use a whisk, either electric or hand, and you just whisk it up until it forms stiff peaks, and ta-da! Whipped cream.
Avengers! Assemble.
Alright, my favorite part is assembly. I've already put the hot chocolate in the mug, and then I piped the most perfect whipped cream spiral you have ever seen and I've ever created in my whole entire life. Then I stuck in the wafer biscuit in there. It's covered in Biscoff, and then grated some hot chocolate, well, regular chocolate, dark chocolate, grated some dark chocolate, and then piped some more whipped cream and stuck the marshmallow on it. And I tried to balance it, but look what happened. Anyways, I finally got to play with my torch that I've been so excited to use. I toasted the marshmallow until it was nice and golden, and then everything started melting because it was heavy, so that kind of felt bad, but I rearranged it. Cheers to you. The marshmallow was delicious as always. This was entirely too sweet. The wafer with the Biscoff on top, entirely too sweet. It was fine before the Biscoff, it was nasty after the Biscoff. And then the whipped cream with the ganache was good. However, the whole thing is just too rich, so I actually couldn't finish it and had to pour it away. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. What should I make next? And also, follow me.